of band is this?
Everybody poops sometimes.
Give us the smolder.
Wake up, sweetness.
Your first time should be more than special.
I'm in, Savannah said. Good Lord, Gemma.
When a man and a woman, in this case, really, really love each other, what happens is they fuck.
Ooh, hello?
Oh, dang it, I lost my fish. This next word almost sounds like Quidditch. Quidditch milade Diana Agosiagath an Fiedian. As much as I love fucking you, sweetness, we stared into each other's eyes whilst I moaned in ecstasy. Having consumed half of the bourbon, I keep saying bourbon. You know, every time I mess up on a word, Stunt Mama just shows up.
She had her seductive smile on her lips.
I said we couldn't have sex. I didn't say anything about everything else. Ew. Happy to help. Biatch. You are the spark of light and the vastness of my night. His note, like a finality to a beautiful, breathtaking song. Hello. Good evening. How are we doing? It's great to see you all. Tonight I thought I'd go with a bit more of a Sherlock Holmes approach. Not quite the same. But here we are. And yes, my puppy is in the background. He is sleeping on his bed. Stunt Mama's mama, I thought you weren't going to be here yet. No top hat? Well, Sherlock Holmes never actually wore a top hat, at least not on purpose. And the normal hat he wears with like the thing at the back and the thing that covers the ears and the little pointy thing on top. I don't have one of those. So there you go. Maui, great to see you. Amlas, lovely to have you in here. Dry, welcome back. Stunt Mama's mama. It's a pleasure. Plans changed? Well, I'm very sorry to hear that. I hope it's not because of something, really bad. That'd be terrible. I hope it's a nonchalant change or something. That may not be the correct term, but... oh my gosh, it's Atari. Hey, the book father. Hey, you. Where the heck have you been? No, nothing bad? Okay, good. I mean, I'm sorry that the plans changed, but I'm glad it's not, serious. That would be not great. So tasty. Just delicious. Right. Well, I can't believe it, but gosh, 5 days, 6 days, and then it's Christmas? What the heck? I am not ready. Okay, hey y'all, what's up with the grandpa hat? I am trying to dress like Sherlock. I beg your pardon. Oh. That reminds me, actually. Small announcement. After we're done reading Song for Someone, I have felt inspired, you see. And therefore, I have ordered hardback covers of the Sherlock series books. once this book has finished, we will be diving into the Sherlock Holmes stories, because I thought, why the heck not? Normally I don't do that. Normally I go read another book by a new author or an author that has a new book, and you know, that's kind of my thing. But I at least wanted to have the set for one thing, because it's a nice looking set. But then on top of that, I thought it'd be great to read one of them and kind of continue that Sherlock Holmes theme, even though this is technically Irene Adler's book. Technically. You can't help but, you know, I mean, Sherlock's part of the story. Irene Adler is Irene Adler on her own account, absolutely. But she's not the Irene Adler we know without Sherlock. So they kind of go hand in hand. Anyway, I digress. So that is the plan. Oh my gosh, it's Carly with her reindeer wiggling butt. Thank you, Carly. Hi, Carly. I'm still here for you, even though you disowned me. Whoa. That... Wow. Those are some strong words, Beeve. Unbelievable. I'm not even gonna... I can't even reply to that. Atari, thank you for the lurk. I'm having a hard time finding a present for the Bookfather. Why? You don't need to give me a present. Thank you for thinking of me. But not necessary. Tacky's here. Oh my gosh, there's so many people in here. What did I do? Is it the dog? It's the dog, isn't it? It's the puppy. Had to make an entrance? Yes, you did. And I'm glad you did. How about me? Where's my present, Santa Bookfather? It's in the mail. Yeah. Well, he is awful cute. He is. He's a big baby. He's a big baby. He's scared of the world. And he loves to be by me. Or somebody, at least. But he's a good boy. You're a good boy? Yeah. He's like, whatever, man. All right. We need to do some shout outs real quick. Because there's a lot of folks in here. In fact, Amlas, are you still here? We got some peeps that I would like the community to know about. I'll do Fire Beef first, since, you know, he thinks I disowned him. What is that? Not sure what game that was, but it looked interesting. Father of Mine? Sure. If you say so. I hope you're feeling better. I mean, I've enjoyed listening to you banter with G on streams, playing games and whatnot, so that's been good. And then we have... Arm is still messed up. Ugh, that stinks. Sorry. What are you making? That looked very crafty. I can't do that kind of stuff. I am not that talented. And we cannot forget the infamous Chaotic Carly. who was just singing a lullaby to Queenie. That clip was 5 years ago. Wow. That's impressive. Oh, before I jump over to reading, because that's why we're here. 6 a.m., the snow should stop here. Ugh. I hate winter. Thank you for the shout out, of course. So you may have noticed I haven't done any like Christmas themed giveaways and stuff like that. There's a reason for that. Katie's here. Hi, Katie. I didn't do any Christmas stuff because I decided to switch it and do something for my birthday. My birthday is at the end of January. I think I have a stream that will be close to that, but not like maybe the day before on the 30th or something like that. I'm turning, it's really hard to say, 40. God, that hurt. I'm turning 40. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to do a giveaway. And what I have here it's a really cool backpack. Just know G is older. Absolutely. This is brand new. And even has like the USB option there. I'm going to do a giveaway for this in January. So, once we start streaming in January, I will start a drawing for it. And I'm probably going to go old school and write people's names down on a piece of paper because I like that method. I've done it that way before and I like it. It's fun. Instead of doing the electronic option. Especially since it's going to go over multiple streams. And then on the 30th, the day before my birthday, I will draw a winner. And then I'll figure out how to get it to you. So there you go. Fellow Aquarian, the superior sign of the zodiac. Thank you, Katie. Kay's like, I'm older than everybody. 40, is that your cane in the background? Yes. Oh, geez, just realized we have snow in the morning, and I'm meeting Stunt Mama to get her nails done in the morning. Ooh, well, be careful. I hope it goes okay. All right. Enough yapping. We're on chapter 23. And KD, you probably didn't hear this, so I'll mention it one more time. After we're done with your book, I have ordered the set of the Sherlock Holmes books in hardback. And once we're done reading your book, I've felt so inspired because of your writing that I'm going to read one of them. I'll even let chat pick. So, looking forward to that. That is delicious. I'm 54, so I have a walker with tennis balls. That's the best way to do it. You know, you can clean up smudge marks as you go. And by the way, I think I win the prize for being the oldest. Oh boy, you know what? It's how you feel in here that matters. Brilliant. I thought you might like that. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. I will be streaming the day after Christmas. That is my plan. So if you've, got an inkling to be here and just want to sit and listen to a story, you're more than welcome to be. Tonight, we start on page 143 chapter 23, which is Irene Adler's chapter. Holmes and I were preparing to dine with Ludo and Violetta. There would be 4 of us this evening. Ava was away visiting her cousin. Entering the drawing room in a pastel green evening dress, my hair piled high in a pompadour, unrecognizable from my earlier equestrian activities, I found Holmes dressed in a full suit, fiddling with his tie. "I do apologize for keeping you waiting," said Holmes. "I am struggling with this darn cravat." "Please let me help you." I unfastened the mother-of-pearl pin on his black satin cravat. We gazed into each other's eyes for a brief moment. I could smell the soap on his skin, the faint aroma of his cologne. "You know, Mr. Holmes, you're holding a lot of tension in your shoulders. You would sleep much better if you could let it out." "Thank you, Miss Adler. I will bear that in mind." What kind of tension is she talking about? I'm just kidding. She is a lady, and he is a gentleman. Probably. We strolled over to the farmhouse, where Ludo greeted us warmly and escorted us into the drawing room for pre-dinner drinks. I accepted a dry sherry, Holmes a whiskey and soda. That seems to be his drink of choice. Ludo raised his glass to me. "I saw you riding in the fields earlier today. Most impressive. You ride as well as any man." He chuckled, turning his attention to Holmes. "Were you aware that your wife was quite the equestrian?" Because I can read. "I am discovering that there is no end to my wife's indisputable talents," said Holmes. "Where did you learn to ride?" asked Violetta. "I used to stay with my uncle and his family during the holidays. They had a ranch in the Catskills. That's where I learned my equestrian skills and how to use a gun." "Well, we're very fortunate to have your expertise," said Violetta. "Please feel free to ride Allegro any time you want. He could do with the exercise. Javier does his best, but he struggles to handle him sometimes. Ludo doesn't want me to ride Allegro at the moment." "No, that's right," said Ludo, shaking his head. "Allegro is far too robust for you right now, Violetta." "I would love to take him out for a ride," I said. "It will no doubt keep me occupied. Thank you." Ludo nodded. "It is our pleasure, and you would really be doing us a favor. Violetta and I have some exciting news to share with you both." Ludo beamed at his wife. "The reason why my Violetta cannot ride at the moment is that we are expecting a bambino. After 15 years of trying for a second precious child, Violetta is finally expecting." Violetta laughed, pointing to her belly hidden underneath her dress. "We have managed to keep it a secret until now because we didn't want to tempt fate. I miscarried a child the year after Ava was born." "Oh, many congratulations to you both." Holmes slapped Ludo on the back. "Well, my boy, I believe that a cigar is in order. Shall we?" Holmes and Ludo excused themselves, retiring to the courtyard. "I'm delighted for you and Ludo. It couldn't happen to a more deserving couple," I said. "Oh, I nearly forgot. I have something for you, Nin. I won't be a moment." Violetta returned after a few minutes with 2 pairs of riding trousers and a velvet slimline black riding habit exquisitely tailored, with a high-buttoned bodice and deep pockets. She passed the clothes to me. Nin, I would like you to have these trousers. I'm afraid I can only lend you the jacket. That was a gift from Ludo. He would be upset if I gave it away, although it isn't of much use to me at the moment. She laughed. Thank you, I said, accepting the clothes. I quite understand. The jacket is beautiful. I'll be sure to take good care of it. You are too kind. Nonsense. It's the least I can do. Violetta reached into her pocket. This is a key to the lumber room. It's at the far end of the stable block, where I keep Allegro's tack. There's a side saddle there if you wish to make use of it. But please, be sure to lock the door behind you. Ludo keeps his gun in there. There's an influx of children running around at this time of year. What with the fruit picking, you can never be too careful. Thank you so much. I accepted the key from Violetta. I'll be sure to keep the door locked. As for the saddle, I much prefer to use a good English saddle because it offers more control. Allegra was a joy to ride, but he's not the most straightforward conveyance. I hope that is agreeable with you. It is more than agreeable with me, said Violetta. Come, let me get you another drink. Holmes and Ludo returned to the drawing room. Holmes fixed his eyes on me, his face a mask of concern. Are you all right, Nin? I am fine, Sherlock, I whispered. I'm no doubt about to fall apart because someone else is pregnant. I'm delighted for Violetta and Ludo. A flush of color appeared on Holmes's sallow cheeks, and he gave my shoulders a sympathetic pat. Taken by surprise at his rate of display of empathy, I instinctively kissed him on the cheek. Oh, it's starting. Staring at him, I was shocked by the realization of my actions. Holmes looked at me in a stunned silence before taking my arm in his, and we retired to the dining room. During dinner, Violetta and Ludo extended a warm invitation for us to join them at their 20th anniversary supper to be held at the farm on Saturday. Ludo reassured Holmes that this would be a private function, by invitation only, for close friends, relatives, and a handful of farmhands and their families who help with the harvest. Ludo explained this was their annual custom. To do otherwise, he said, would only invoke resentment and suspicion. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 23. And I see we have lost the puppy. I am sad. He has wandered off in the search of food and good comfort. Night Marcher, what's up, man? Dig the cap? Thank you. I was trying for a more Sherlock Holmes approach, just without having all of the right necessary pieces. This was the closest thing I had. Good day to you, sir. By gosh, this tea is fantastic. I've been adding more and more milk to help give it a more creamy, rich texture. Flavor. It's not a texture. And I dare say I am delighted with the outcome. You have one like that? Like to wear it with a peacoat? Yes, indeed. Indeed. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, creamy as a texture? True, but I was trying to think of a taste, like a more creamy taste, not creamy texture, because that would be weird when you're drinking it. But yes, you're quite right. Quite right indeed. Itchy back. Itchy back. Scratchy scratch. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, chapter 24, page 147, Irene Adler. The following morning, I arrived at the stables to find Allegro tacked up and ready to go. Tea is quintessentially English. 'Tis. Quintessentially. I was about to lead him out of the stable when I noticed the colt had cast a shoe. I would be unable to ride that day. Removing the bridle and replacing it with a head collar, I unfastened the girth and was shocked to discover it had been cut through and was hanging by a thread. I wondered if Pietro was trying to teach me a lesson. I patted the colt down the neck, filling his manger with grassy hay, which he happily munched on. Hey, I hope you enjoy your sweet feed. I'll see you tomorrow. I let myself out of the stable, bolting the door behind me. I'm sure what you found was no accident at all. I found Pietro in the lumber room and showed him the girth. He appeared as shocked as I, but denied all knowledge instead of blaming the incident on a group of children who often came fruit-picking with their parents. Pietro said they were a wild bunch who were always up to mischief, although he admitted it was his responsibility to keep an eye on them. I considered telling Violetta and Ludo, then decided they had enough to worry about with the farm and their impending arrival. Pietro assured me he would take care of it, begging me not to tell the Espiritos, explaining that he'd already received a warning for tardiness and was terrified he would lose his job. He promised to speak to the children and ensure it never happened again. Looking at the distraught expression on Pietro's face, I decided to give him the benefit of the doubt. But, because there's always a but, I warned him I would not be quite so forgiving if there were any further incidents. Setting off on my way back to the barn, I raised an eyebrow upon hearing the sound of a soprano. The voice appeared to be coming from the direction of the orchard. I spotted Ava through the trees, collecting quinces. Quinces? I don't know what those are. In my tracks, taken aback by the joyous melody and Ava's mellifluous, sweet-sounding voice. I waited until Ava had sung the last note before walking over to join her. Ava appeared startled at my approach, failing to recognize me until I removed my cap. My riding attire is very fetching, don't you agree? I laughed. How long have you been singing? I love to sing, said Ava. I've been captivated by music ever since I was a little girl, when I heard my first recording on the gramophone. Your voice is outstanding for your age, Ava. Were you aware that you have a beautiful soprano voice? Ava blushed. I have been practicing Mama's favorite song, but I find it rather difficult. What song is that? Drink to me only with thine eyes, said Ava. I would love to be able to sing it for my parents on their wedding anniversary. That would mean so much to Mama. Her sister Adriana died last year in childbirth. Mama was devastated. She was very close to her sister. Adriana's husband was grief-stricken and inconsolable. He's an intelligence officer in the Navy. He returned to his ship, the Regia Marina, straight after Adriana's funeral, and we haven't heard from him since. So you see, Nin, I need to try and perfect this song as best I can. I want Mama to feel happy again. What a lovely gesture, I said. You must allow me to help you with your task. It's certainly not the easiest song choice. I performed the song at one of my earlier recitals. It brings back fond memories. Ava stared at me in disbelief. The great Irene Adler is to be my tutor? I don't believe it. I took hold of Ava's hand, offering her a reassuring smile. Come with me, Ava. Back to the barn. I rummaged through the bookshelves until I found Ben Jonson's book of poetry, nestled between Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet and Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn, and I handed the book to Ava. The poem is on page 12.
I'm lurking now.
Gemma. Hi, Gemma. Thank you for the lurk. I hope you're well. I want you to read it. That will help you focus and comprehend the actual meaning of the song. Then I want you to tell me your thoughts on the text tomorrow. Ava thanked me before returning to the farmhouse in wild euphoria. I had no sooner come back, fresh from my morning exercise the following day, when Ava knocked on my door. I poured us a glass of lemonade. We sat in the kitchen, chatting for a while. I took a sip from my glass, staring at Ava curiously. Well, Ava, what are your thoughts on the poem? Or, as my husband would say, what have you deduced? I believe it's obvious that the man is in love with the woman. He appears to be saying that if she leaves a kiss in the cup, he won't need wine. He doesn't feel the need to drink to be happy, although it's unclear if she returns his admiration. I smiled at the girl. You know, you are right. It's not easy to perceive. When I studied this poem, I deduced that she did love him. The reader can feel the speaker's ardent adulation. She sent the flowers back to him after breathing on them. Now the flowers grow and can never die. That could mean that even though they couldn't be together, she wanted him to know that their love was forever. The speaker appears to hold her in very high regard. Oh, yes. Thank you, Neen. I feel that I understand it much better now. Please, come and see me tomorrow morning after breakfast. We'll need a few things from the village. Would you be kind enough to accompany me? Oh, yes, of course. Good. Then I will ask Sherlock to drive us. Please ensure you ask Violetta for permission. Ava nodded before dashing back to the farmhouse to speak to her mama. Violetta raised no objections to Ava's request. She was delighted that I took such an avid interest in her daughter. And that is the end of the chapter. How fabulous. Little known fact about me. I used to sing. It's true. I haven't done it so long, though, that I just, well, kind of suck at it now.
So H1 wants to know, are you really 5'5"?
Well, that was an old clip, I think. I love this family. They're so cute. They really are. I wish I could sing. I'm not surprised. What do you mean you're not surprised? Yeah, they're such a wonderful little family. It's like almost picture perfect, you know? I'm tone deaf. I can't sing worth shit. Well, Tacky, I imagine you have other talents. Like crafting. I used to sing too. I bet you still can. I'm not surprised that you used to sing. Well, I only sing in the shower on odd days and every seventh Sunday in the year. What Dry is actually trying to say is that he sings all the time, and he just doesn't want to tell us. I know you sing. You're in the choir. Ruined it with 17 years of smoking. Well, yes, I guess that would certainly impact one's ability to sing. I get that. I sing loud and badly in the car. You know what, Taki? That is the perfect way to do it. Sing like no one's watching, and who cares? Because you know what? If it's making you happy, you ain't hurting nobody. So good for you. However, if you and I one day just happen to be sharing a car ride together, please still sing. Just maybe turn the volume down a tiny bit. Gemma, I used to be in the choir? Really? That's so cool. You and Stepmama's mama need to team up and do a duet. I play steering wheel drums in the car. Me too. I actually play real drums. I just don't have any right now, which is really sad. Hello. Wicked Weasel. I love that name. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in. Feel free to lurk if you want, or chat if you like, whichever. My playlist confuses people, so be warned. All right. Hey. Doesn't bother me one bit. In fact, I think that would be kind of interesting, because I listen to the same stuff all the time. So, yeah. I'm boring. I'm boring like that. I also listen to NPR, or because I'm in Iowa, IPR. Because I'm an old man. I like to hear what's going on in the world and in my state. It's the hat. Well, I don't wear this every day. In fact, I'm trying to remember the last time I did wear it. And I don't remember. Anywho, I hope you're all doing splendid. Katie, once again, I cannot express to you how much I love your book. It's so well written. The story flows nicely. It's great. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, please click on this link that I'm about to type. Please go click on that link and check out KD's author page. She's got more books than just this one. Mine goes from metalcore to country to J-Lo to random Quebec songs, the odd mainstream song, and a sprinkling of anime openings and musical tunes. That is such a wide variety. Wow. I don't even know what to say. But fantastic. Choir and praise team, I'm a first soprano when my voice is good and warmed up. There's more than one soprano. That shows you what I know. It's finally coming back to where it was before the shutdown, and no choir for a year and a half back then. Oof. Yeah, I bet that did a number. Get it? No, never mind. Yeah. But I'm glad it's getting back to where you had it before. I bet that feels really good. How come I never got to hear you sing then when I was at your house, Stepmama's mama? What's up with that? I feel like I need to make a special trip. Or at the very least, you need to invade one of your daughter's streams and then start singing. Just saying. I'm going to bring it up next time she streams in like 2 weeks. Next year. Anyway, I am way off topic here. Let's get back to the book, shall we? Page 151, chapter 25, also from Irene Adler's perspective. You're welcome anytime. I cannot sing with those headsets on. Can't hear myself. That's fine. You don't need to wear a headset. Just sing into the microphone. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, chapter 25. The following morning, Holmes drove Ava and me to the village. I wore a white dress and matching parasol, my hair arranged in kiss curls. Kiss curls. Ava looked fetching in a plain blue dress with a yellow yoke, a straw boater perched jauntily on her head. What's a straw boater? I have no idea what that is. Is it like a little ribbon or something? Straw boater. Oh, a straw hat. Oh, okay. I can see it now. Thank you. That makes way more sense to me now. Holmes checked in with Mario at the telegraph office. A telegram had arrived from Lestrade stating that there had been no recent sightings of Palmer, although the Metropolitan Police were actively pursuing several lines of inquiries. I wonder if Sherlock was like, yeah, the Metropolitan Police suck. Just my curiosity. Meanwhile, Ava and I entered the cobbled market, where we rummaged our way through the stalls. We finally emerged with a selection of items: perfume, stockings, hair clips, satin and ribbon, new shoes for Ava, and various makeup items completed our purchases. Mama, she struggles with that word too. Yeah, Metropolitan. I know she struggled with Metropolis. That one I have no problem with, but Metropolitan I always seem to mess up. Did I say Celtic? I meant Celtic. Did I say Celtic? Doesn't matter. We then entered the florist where I ordered a basket of spring flowers. The assistant promised to deliver the blooms to Violetta and Ludo on their wedding anniversary. Our next stop was the modiste. A little bell pealed as Ava and I entered the shop. The proprietor, Madame Passarello, appeared. She was an elegant lady in her early 40s, attired in a blue taffeta suit, her dark hair tied up in a knot. Madame Passarello smiled at us warmly. "Good morning, ladies. How may I be of service?" she asked. We are looking for some pretty material for an evening dress for this lovely young lady." I gestured towards Ava. "Do you have anything suitable in white nun's veiling?" Madame Passarello placed a ream of material on the countertop. "This is our bespoke collection." My fingers quickly searched through the reams. "Could we please see this one unfurled?" "Of course, madame." Madame Passarello duly obliged. "Well, what do you think, Ava? Do you like this one?" I quizzed, rubbing the material back and forth between my fingers. "Like it? Neen, I love it." Ava's brow furrowed. "But it's more expensive than the others." "Don't worry about that." I gestured to Madame Passarello. "Well, that's settled, thank you. We shall take this one." Ava's face broke into a wide grin. Hold on, they're just going to look at one and not see some others? What is this? They're shopping like me. In, find the thing, out. It's crazy. Madame Passarello took out her measuring tape and guided Ava towards the dressing room, where two assistants deftly cut and measured. Afterwards, we looked through the window of the local jeweler before finally entering the shop. Ava was utterly overwhelmed. In addition to the dress and shoes, I also bought her a black ebony choker with a silver ivory cameo. I was delighted with my own purchases, a solid silver powder case and an additional item I arranged to have engraved. We eventually emerged from the market with all of our required purchases either on order or already in hand. We found Holmes waiting for us in the brougham, impatiently puffing away on his pipe. He helped us into the carriage, then picked up the reins, setting off to Lissol. Later that evening, while partaking of drinks on the patio, I spoke to Holmes of Ava's desire to sing for her parents on their wedding anniversary. I explained I had offered to offer help and that rehearsals would commence the following morning on the pretense that I would teach Ava a little French. Holmes stared at me oddly. I see that you have added lies to our list of deceptions, Miss Adler. Yes, but for a noble cause, Mr. Holmes, don't you think? Holmes agreed. He was curled up on his chair, his eyes half closed, smoking his black clay pipe. His demeanor had greatly improved since our altercation. He appeared amused when I explained I wanted to take on more of an active role and, to my surprise, agreed to my request that I take Allegro out every morning and ride through the fields to check for anything suspicious. I watched him curiously. Do you have plans when you return to London? He laughed. I dare say I will continue with my consultations until I drop dead. I hope that's not too shallow an answer for you. Not at all. But is it not depressing to be constantly faced with murderers and the worst possible version of people? That must be a cold world to live in. I frowned. Yes, at times it can be. Holmes agreed. The world is full of dreadful, detestable people. Inhumanity is like a drug. It's all around us. The worst criminals are often the ones people least suspect. Take women, for instance. Katie Webster, Marie Manning, and Lizzie Borden, to name a few. Although admittedly, when most women kill, it's usually for or because of men. Wow, I have missed a lot of chat. Because the starting screen clip ingrained in my brain, Metropod. Why can't I say that word? Don't judge me, Red. That's a great one. Mama House Gaming. Sorry I have to get Shelby and she wanted to go to the store. I'll be home in a bit. Don't worry about it. So good to see you. Isn't it something like, where can I say this word? What is wrong with me? You know, in Stump Mama's voice. Good times. It's a wonder that such women actually impressed you, I said. What about the likes of Anne Boleyn, Joan of Arc, Margaret Beaufort, and Josephine Butler? Many men have vilified such inspirational women throughout history, but I have always thought there was something rather noble about their self-effacement. Surely even you can't believe them to be inscrutable. Well, Anne Boleyn may not be the best example. She is said to have lived a life of sexual intrigue and political scandal. But even so, she didn't deserve to go down in history as a harlot. Wearing our Peaky Blinders outfit? Look incredibly dashing. Oh, thank you. I was going for a more Sherlock Holmes appearance. I don't have any Sherlock Holmes stuff, so I just went with what I had. One must do what one can in times of great need. But your likeness is appreciated all the same. According to the poem by Lancelot du Lac, there is strong evidence to suggest that Anne Boleyn did, in fact, commit adultery. But you are right, of course. Not all women are inscrutable. Only most of the ones I have been unfortunate to come into contact with during my career. Mr. Holmes, it must be quite a thing to observe what no one else can. You see solutions to problems that others cannot even begin to understand. People are fascinated by you because not only do you see straight through the obvious, but you do it in such a way that makes it, well, obvious. The way I see it, you are a righter of wrongs, a friend to the friendless. It all sounds very romantic when you put it like that. Believe me, Miss Adler, detective work is anything but. How would you define intelligence in a person, Mr. Holmes? What would impress you about someone intellectually? Holmes looked at me in amusement. A person is intelligent if they can process information well and not procrastinate while they do so. To me, what defines intellect in somebody is how quickly it takes them to arrive at the correct conclusion after considering all the facts. A single misunderstood clue has the power to destabilize even the most discerning observer. It's so easy to be carried away by preconceptions, which is why the police so often get it wrong. Confidence, of course, is the key. Nothing dispels perspectiveness as much as self-doubt. Pray, tell me, what is your own view on intelligence? Well, I would agree with you, Mr. Holmes. Although I think intelligent people have a keen look about them, they tend to react to subtle things more quickly than others. Little shifts and changes. Nothing scares them. Nothing slips past them. He flashed me a wiry smile. Except you, Miss Adler. You slipped past me 7 years ago. Tell me, does anything scare you, Mr. Holmes? Failure scares me, Holmes admitted, and the fear of losing my faculties. The thought of being mentally incapacitated horrifies me. But other than that, not really. I've seen it all in my line of work. You know, you are very perceptive, Miss Adler. I truly value your intelligent observations. Come, let me get you another drink. That's the end of the chapter. Is it me, or are the two of them finally at that place where they're starting to really appreciate each other? Because that's how it feels. Hey, Ash. Looking all dapper tonight? Well, we are reading about Irene Adler and Sherlock Holmes. I thought it only necessary to dress up as such. Thank you. I dare say, I'm afraid that this book will one day end. And that is sad. A mutual understanding, a meeting of the minds. Yes, indeed. Quite right. Hey there, zombie kills. What? Ooh, let me check something. All right. Oh, okay. I was like, huh? Like all books, and it always makes me a little sad. Yes, you and I both. Donna Silvio. Hello, how Yin's doing today? Doing quite well, thank you. How are you? Welcome in. We're just about to run ads. We're in between chapters, and I run 2-minute ads so I can get rid of, interrupting ads. So bear with me. I'm going to start those now, but we'll be back. And then we'll keep reading. Ash, how are you? Are you ready for some more Iron Flame this evening? In roughly 1 hour's time, ladies and gentlemen, Iron Flame will be being read in Discord. If you wish to join us for that book, !Iron will get you a link to the Discord. Wow, I actually got the ads when I was supposed to. Look at that. Look at you. Oh, you just got one. Well, perfect. Nobody likes to get more than one. Ads. An ad for Pedialyte. Is it telling you something? Do you need nutrition? Do you need to be hydrated? I honestly don't know why I have a hydrate command on my channel, because I do just fine picking up my cup of tea. But here we are. Very much so. Well. Aw, Star Mama's mama. Thank you for giving a sub to Tacky. That was so kind of you. And Dry, good job on wasting your points. That was super kind of you. Thank you. Now, we shall spin the wheel once I log back in. Donna says, I'm okay, just relaxing. Don't think I've gotten to catch you live until now. I met you briefly in Stump Mama's streams a while back, I believe, and I just got back from ads with Jason Momoa in them. And she's okay with that. Nice. Ads are done? Cool. I was writing Stump Mama's name in my message before seeing the gift sub happening. Yes. Stop spending money on me. I can't tell people what to do. We're going to spin the wheel. Thank you again, Stump Mama's mama. Let's see. Curls. We're adding curls. Fantastic. Mitchell, hello. Good to see you. All right. Well, the ads are done. Much to everyone's relief, mine included. Well, Donna, it is great to see you. Glad you popped in. Please relax, enjoy a good book. !Someone will get you a link to our author's page. And you gotta go? Oh no! Kay, I hope you have a good night. Please take care of yourself. Gemma? What are you doing? Gemma, you spend way too much money in here. I'm serious. Please go check out Gemma's channel. She's one of those people that is just quiet in the background. She's always watching, she's always there. But she has one of the biggest hearts. And she's always shelling it out on other people. Gemma, you're way too kind. Way too kind. And of course, I will spin the wheel for that. Absolutely. I really love Sherlock Holmes. I did a ton of reports on Holmes and Conan Doyle in my school years. I didn't know this book existed, though. What is that? Oh, more curls. Well, that is because this book isn't part of the typical Sherlock Holmes series. This is actually written by someone in our chat out of the UK. Her name is KD, and she wrote this book herself, and then she gave me permission to read it. So here we are. And we're about halfway through, give or take, I think. Yes, and there's the link. Thank you, Gemma. Gemma, you're way too kind. Thank you again for the bits. They're unbelievable. As much as I appreciate them, please stop. Please. You're kind. I hope I can be as generous as you are. Page 156, chapter 26, Irene Adler. Ava waited impatiently for Gabriella Anka to leave the barn before joining me the following day. She was disappointed to learn I would not be accompanying her on the piano. I poured her a glass of lemonade. We must have a little patience, Ava. We shall begin a cappella. Then, when I am happy, we will slowly introduce the chords. I can't wait for the other book tonight. Can't wait to see what happens. It's going to be good. So many good books in my life. I am very blessed. We spent the morning practicing vocal exercises and breathing techniques until at last I felt satisfied with Ava's progress. Well, I said, that was your first vocal examination. I'm pleased to tell you that your voice is in fair condition for rapid development, but you must have patience. You will not become a great performer overnight. No one expects to pick up a paintbrush and recreate the Mona Lisa. You must learn to sing from your diaphragm. The more you practice, the better you will become. You know, when I was a young girl, I aspired to be Agnes Huntington. She was my heroine. You are my heroine. Thank you, Ava. You are very kind. Looking at Ava, I detected a desire in the girl that I recognized in myself at such a tender age. I know how it feels to be young, ambitious, and talented. I want to help enable you so you can realize your dreams. The rehearsal continued for some time. I noticed Ava appeared a little downcast, so I held up my hand to stop her from singing. Ava, I want you to look at me when you sing. At the moment, your eyes are on the floor. If you're going to sing for people, you need to connect with them and stay focused. I'm sorry, I'm just so nervous. It's all right, my dear girl. It is good to have nerves. That shows you care. There's an intrinsic beauty to your voice that is truly captivating. You know, I couldn't sing as well as you at your age. Really? Gasped Ava. Really? And now you will learn to sing with your eyes. Just like that. That probably looked really creepy, actually. Carrying on. Later that evening, Holmes and I enjoyed after-dinner drinks on the patio. I poured myself a glass of wine, taking a few sips before plucking up the courage to ask Holmes if he would consider accompanying Ava on the violin, explaining the predicament regarding the piano. To my astonishment, he agreed to my request. I was unaware the young lady could sing. Or wait, that's wrong person. I was unaware the young lady could sing. Does she possess any talent? He asked. Oh, Ava has talent, all right. Her voice has a vulnerability which is extraordinary to listen to. She will make her parents proud, I am certain. You appear to have become very fond of the young lady. I have indeed. She has such a lively, engaging personality. And she is such a striking girl for her age, don't you think? Is she? I hadn't really noticed. But now you come to mention it, I suppose she is. Mr. Holmes, are you familiar with the song, Drink to Me Only with Thine Eyes? Ben Jonson. He raised an eyebrow. That was a particular favorite of my late mother's. I will have no problem remembering the score. The following day, I spoke to Ava about the unfortunate situation with the piano and how it was badly out of tune. But all was not lost, as Mr. Holmes had kindly agreed to accompany her on the violin. Holmes opened his violin case to reveal a beautiful Stradivarius. We were amazed to hear he was such an accomplished musician, a far cry from his ghastly cat wailing during the midnight hours. The day before the anniversary supper was a Friday, and the final rehearsals were underway. Holmes gestured to the piano and asked me to play a few notes. I did as he asked and was astounded to hear the piano play perfectly in tune. Ava was ecstatic, crying tears of joy. She flung her arms around Holmes. I ran my fingers over the piano, playing the first few chords of The Old Folks at Home. Thank you. That was unbelievably generous and gracious of you. I smiled at Holmes. You play beautifully, Neen, said Holmes. Your technique and the delicacy of your expression are quite remarkable. Unbeknownst to Ava and me, Holmes later revealed that he'd had the piano tuned earlier that morning. After making extensive inquiries in the village, he was eventually pointed in the direction of a retired piano tuner, Federico Coletti, being reliably informed that Coletti could be found most days propping up the bar at Ricardo's Inn. Holmes made his acquaintance there the day before. At first, Coletti proved a reluctant accomplice. Only after Holmes plied Coletti with whiskey, cigars, and the promise of a substantial tip did he begrudgingly agree to accompany Holmes to La Salle the following morning. He carried out a splendid job of restoring the piano to its former glory, managing to complete the task before I returned from the stables. You see, that's the end of the chapter, by the way. Sherlock Holmes does have a heart. Many didn't believe it, but it's true. KD, give nothing away, but why do I get the feeling that something bad is going to happen? We're winding up for such a splendid affair that I feel like something terrible is afoot. I could be wrong. Whew. Oh, that hat was warm. It's a lovely hat, though. Everything in the story has been going really well so far. Nobody's tried to hurt anybody. Nobody's tried to kill anybody. I feel like that's about to change. Heated up the noggin again? Oh, yes. I bet Sherlock Holmes doesn't have a cool cabbie hat. You know what? I bet he doesn't. Yet. Exactly, Corgi. The key word is yet. How about we find out? Chapter 27. After dinner that evening, Holmes and I retired to the patio for our evening ritual of drinks and conversation. The evening was balmy, the end to a perfect spring day. Dark forces could be hovering. Yes, I imagine they might. We settled into the cushioned wicker chairs, gazing out into the garden and the stunning Tuscan sunset. I could tell from the twinkle in his eyes and the welcome smile on his lips that Holmes was in a congenial mood. You fill me with interest, Miss Adler. Tell me more about your childhood. I sighed before meeting his gaze. I was just a baby when my mother died, and my father employed a parade of governess. I'm afraid none of them lasted very long. They were all ghastly. My father didn't know what to do with me. So, on my Aunt Aline's advice, I was sent to my uncle's ranch in the Catskills. I went there every summer and ran wild and free through the fields and mountains. I became a spiritual orphan. This is your favorite chapter? Oh boy, okay, all right. Who else lived at the ranch? My uncle, aunt, and cousins. They taught me to ride and shoot. Then my aunt's son from her first marriage, Beau, came to stay with us. We got on well at first. He was 4 years older than me, and I really looked up to him. And then one night he made a pass at me, and when I rejected his advances, he changed. I realized he was far from wonderful. I scoffed. He never missed an opportunity to undermine me in front of my family. Then, when I was 15, my aunt intervened. She told my father I was a willful, reckless child and should be sent away to school. In despair, my father shipped me off to a private boarding school for girls in New York. What are your first thoughts of the school? My only thought was, how could I get out of there? I was lucky enough to share a dorm on the top floor with just one other girl, Hilary Bilby. I almost did a commercial of Liberty Mutual. Liberty Bibbity. She became my only friend. How about your academic life? We each stood in line at assembly every morning. The formidable headmistress, Miss Ackers, stared down at us over her horn-rimmed spectacles, her shrill, didactic voice ringing in our ears. Thump, you're here in Spirit Lurking. I know you are streaming right now, sir. Have a good stream. Girls, pull those shoulders back. Head erect. No slouching. Remember to always carry yourselves with confidence, dignity, and grace. I hated every minute of school life. I was smart, all right, but I was a friendless outsider. Girls were expected to become compliant, obedient, and enthusiastic. I'm afraid I was none of those things. The other girls were preoccupied with their own vanity and self-importance. I was the one they gossiped about. The new girl from Trenton. There I developed my carapace so as not to allow things to bother me too much. After an altercation with one of the girls, something snapped in me. In an act of extreme defiance, or in the words of Miss Ackers, extreme foolishness, I fought back. That was not my finest hour, Mr. Holmes. What happened next? It's like he's questioning her. Miss Ackers hauled me into her office. The other girls were terrified of her, but not me. She remarked that according to the other girls, I was difficult to get along with, considering myself superior to everyone else. I laughed at the absurdity of her accusation. Admirable, Holmes chuckled, standing up to authority at such a tender age. Stupid, perhaps, but admirable. What else did she say? She peered over her glasses at me with a look of disdain and said, Irene Adler, this school expected students to adhere to specific standards. You are undoubtedly one of our brightest students. However, character is as important as academic achievement. You must try to remember you're a lady, and not all of us are fortunate enough to be born into a life of privilege. How did you respond? I said I didn't believe I was better than anyone because of wealth or birth, and surely being different was preferable to being something you're not. I refused to apologize for being who I am. Instead, I asked Miss Ackers if she intended to interview the other girl. Did she? No. I ended up with detention for insubordination and was confined to my dorm for the rest of the week. Troublemakers and bullies are invariably unhappy people, said Holmes, filled with inexcusable anger and rage. I fancy those girls and that teacher were jealous. You are never afraid to challenge authority, always in search of the truth. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, I said. As much as those girls tried, they could never break my spirit. That experience left me with an innate hunger to succeed. I finished school with the highest marks in our examinations. What of your mother? Unfortunately, she tragically died from heart failure shortly after I was born. No one was aware she had a problem until it was too late. You know, it's strange. I always felt like my mother was with me in some capacity. Holmes raised an eyebrow. My mother was one of 20 women to graduate as a doctor from the Medical Institution of Geneva College in New York. Of course... Oh, wait. This is still her. Elizabeth Blackwell paved the way to become the first woman to graduate from the same college. I realize how difficult all this is. You must miss your family and friends. He drew on his cigarette. It would be a pity if we lost touch after all this business is behind us. Indeed, I fancy it would be quite something to know you as a friend. Isn't this exactly what she was thinking about many chapters ago? I believe it is. I stared at him. Thank you, Mr. Holmes. I would like that. I appreciate that we will be living in different countries, different worlds even. Perhaps we may correspond. He admitted it. Indeed. Ha ha! Triumph. That would be capital. Capital? That would be capital. I fancy it would be interesting for me to keep track of your career. He looked at me thoughtfully. Do you see yourself getting married again in the future? My independent lifestyle is a conscious choice. I'm better alone. It's safer. I smiled. I am determined to return to La Scala one day. I want to be happy again. Although I don't think true happiness lasts very long. But I believe that tranquility might, and I'll be glad to settle for that. Your determination is admirable, Miss Adler. I tend to think the worst of people. However, even an old cynic like me believes a few good people are left in the world. So, you must pursue your dream and return to Milan. Nobody deserves it more than you. Thank you. I took a sip from my wine glass. I want to rediscover all that I am. I have come to terms with my infertility. If only I could find a way to have a child without involving a man, that would be perfect. A physical impossibility, I would fancy. My cousin Estelle has 3 children, and they are all quite adorable. I try to spend as much time with them as possible whenever I go home. I love sneaking into their bedrooms at night to read to them. I introduced them to the worlds of Lewis Carroll and Edward Lear. Their particular favorite was Alice's Adventure in Wonderland, which I must admit was one of mine too. That's a book that never loses its relevance, mainly due to Alice's intellectual curiosity and her courage to speak out. My favorite part was when the gardeners rushed in to paint the white roses red and avoid those immortal words, "Off with their heads." I laughed, observing Holmes' bemused expression. That logic may appear insane to you, but sometimes a light-handed cosmic touch can make all the difference. Life can be that uncomplicated. Life can be that uncomplicated, Mr. Holmes, if only we allow it. If life were uncomplicated, I'd be out of a job. May I ask you a personal question, Mr. Holmes? Yes, of course. He raised an eyebrow. Have you ever been in love? Holmes shook his head. I'm delighted to categorically and absolutely say that love has so far eluded me. That being said, I don't feel I am capable of love, not in the same way as other people. In any case, I would make a terrible husband. I play the violin far too loudly. Yes, I've noticed. I drove Watson to distraction when we first shared rooms. He shook his head. No, I don't think there is a woman alive who would put up with my bohemian lifestyle. Don't get me wrong, I have had dalliances in the past. However, I was always reluctant to take things any further. Why? I'm not sure, he said. Too fussy, too busy solving crimes, mainly due to the lack of anyone drawing my attention. I have little experience with children, although I sometimes wonder what it would have been like to have a son. It may have gone to Eton. I believe education opens the gateway to success. But alas, that was not to be. I shook my head. I long to live in a house filled with the laughter of children. But that's not meant to be either. It's not too late for you, Mr. Holmes. Do you ever wonder what might have been if you had pursued a relationship? It may have led to marriage and children. How you would have felt back then if the lady in question told you she was expecting your child. How wonderful would it be to hear those words? Holmes took a sip of whiskey, coughed, and spluttered, staring at me in a baffled bemusement. I would have been as intrigued then as I am now. Sadly, that ship has long since sailed. That's a pity, Mr. Holmes. I think it would be a crime not to reproduce your genes. My gifts are often a hindrance and a burden. I'm not sure it would be fair to pass them on to an innocent child. But tell me, do you never feel lonely? Lonely in the middle of London with all those crimes to solve? It suits me to live alone, and I know that I will most likely die alone. But to answer your question, Miss Adler, yes, sometimes I feel lonely. But only when I have nothing to occupy my mind. Please, don't tell anyone I said that. I've got a reputation to uphold. I prefer to walk alone. That is the path I have chosen for myself. Forgive me if I appear cynical, but from what I've seen over the years, most women seem to view relationships more about what they can get out of them. Possessions, wealth, and status. They marry well as a means to an end and have no clue what the end is. But they love the means. I'd rather not speculate about that. Oh, please do. I believe you should. A flicker of a smile appeared on his face. I know you believe that most women to be inscrutable, Mr. Holmes, but let me tell you from personal experience, men are far worse. They are capable of faking an entire relationship. I have always looked upon marriage as an invasion of privacy. You don't get married just to live with someone, I said, looking at him aghast. True love is priceless and can never be bought. People marry because they simply can't live without each other. Well, most people do. Love is, after all, an act of courage. A faithful heart must surely be worth the wait. Ah, but what is faith? Only a leap in the dark? Said Holmes. I have an irreverent attitude towards marriage. It is, in my opinion, the greatest test of character a man will ever have to endure. It never ceases to amaze me that so many are prepared to participate in the ridiculous nonsense of it all so willingly, when it almost certain that they will be hurt and betrayed. Admittedly, a few find the lifetime encumbrance fulfilling, but of course, it's a societal expectation that dictates we should be with the same person for life. You appear to regard love as a sign of weakness, which is an interesting concept, but nothing could be further from the truth. Tell me, Mr. Holmes, what is your perception of love? As far as I'm concerned, Miss Adler, we can't be everything to someone and still be true to ourselves. It's as simple as that. In any case, I don't believe that love, whatever love is, should be measured in feelings. I hate to interrupt this dialogue because they're having a fascinating conversation, but something that Sherlock is saying here about we can't be everything to someone and still be true to ourselves. That is a very captivating line. We get into a relationship, and in the very beginning especially, we give and we give and we give and we mold and we shape and we contort and we become everything we can for the other person. Some people to the point where they then look at themselves in the mirror and realize that they don't recognize themselves, and that's when relationships start to fail. In my opinion. It's only when the couple, whoever they are, actually realize that they need to complement each other rather than change for each other, that things start to move more smoothly. It's a great line. Very good, Katie. Loved it. Whatever love is, I don't believe that love, whatever love is, should be measured in feelings. You don't? No, he said. It should be based on facts. Feelings are inconsistent and unpredictable. Emotions and feelings are a product of a chemical reaction at a physical level. In my line of work, they would become a hindrance and interfere with my efficiency and strategic decision-making. I would never make a decision based on emotion. I couldn't allow it to cloud my professional judgment. But you can always rely on logic. Feelings and people are far too unreliable. He stared at me curiously. Here is a question for you, Miss Adler. What is your perception of love? I stared at him defiantly. Love isn't something to be explained away or justified. No amount of logic can talk you in or out of love. Love is only distinguishable when felt. That said, I'm afraid that love has become a rather violated word and has lost all meaning. If you had to ask the question of what love is, Mr. Holmes, then the argument is already lost. You haven't yet felt its all-consuming power. Or in the Queen's English, pa. Sorry, I guess it's King's English now. Humanity cannot yet offer a rational explanation for why we love, although many have tried and failed, of course. The Romantic poets, the great composers, have all been mesmerized by its potency. However, I believe Mozart came close when he said, "Love, love, love. That is the soul of genius." Holmes looked into my eyes with a peculiarly mischievous gaze. "If you would allow me to be so bold and beg your indulgence for a moment, Miss Adler, let's pretend by process of smoke and mirrors, and in an imaginary universe not unlike Wonderland, you and I have decided to embark on a relationship. Of course, having declared our undying love for one another, we might feel happy right now. Still, happiness is fleeting. In a few hours we may argue and then feel angry. So if we predict our love based on feelings, it is not possible that I could love you today and feel that I didn't love you tomorrow. Feelings are far too inconsistent, and therefore can never be the proper foundation of any true relationship." He's got a point. I stared at him. "Let me get this straight, Mr. Holmes. In this private wonderland, I am to play the imaginary role of your lover? Pray tell me, how would your love for me, or your perfect woman, if she does in fact exist, manifest itself, and what would you be looking for in your ideal woman?" "I believe you are mocking me, Miss Adler." Holmes leaned forward in his chair, "But I will let that go for now. It amuses me to play this little game with you, as long as you are happy to continue, of course." "Oh, I am more than happy to play along." Holmes half closed his eyes. "Let's see. This woman would have to be intelligent, of course, and devoid of intellectual disparity. That should narrow down the field somewhat. But I would need to feel a mental connection and stimulation. She would possess the ability to accept all of my quirks." I smiled at him sardonically. "Yes, Miss Adler, I'm aware that I have them. This woman would need to be interesting enough to challenge me in the verbal repertoire of wits. Yet, at the same time, she must not be shallow or superficial. In my world, values count. So I would choose someone who could show me how to live in the moment and come to terms with my own emotions without analyzing them. Now that would be quite something." I frowned. "You fail to mention passion, Mr. Holmes. I believe that a couple should be equal in love, friendship, and passion. If you don't have passion in a relationship, then indeed it's not a genuine relationship." "You told me there was no passion in the relationship with your late husband." "You are right, of course." I nodded. "Godfrey was no more in love with me than I was with him. But tell me this, Mr. Holmes. What would your perfect woman hope to get out of a relationship with you?" "I beg your pardon, Miss Adler?" "I'm merely curious, Mr. Holmes. What could she expect from you in return?" What could she expect? Why, I would move heaven and earth for her. Her problems would become mine, and I would solve them before she was even aware they existed. I would not only allow this woman into my world by including her in the inner sanctum of my notoriously private life, and by sharing my deepest, innermost feelings. I would, however, be prepared to say goodbye if she broke my trust for any reason. I would distance myself and walk away. And that's how I view love, Miss Adler. It requires a commitment and consistency that is way beyond feelings. It requires constant communication. However, just like your Prince Charming and Alice in Wonderland, this perfect woman simply does not exist. And that is why I choose to be in such, or not to be in such a relationship. Well, thank you for the depressingly pragmatic hypothesis. You tend to mock love. You appear skeptical. But you may well find love when you are least expecting it. And when that happens, your entire world will be shaken, with all of its logic, and you will be left questioning everything. How on earth could I be expected to recognize this phenomenon being the man that I am? Oh, you'll be aware when it happens, Mr. Holmes. Trust me. Nothing is unknowable. You have taught me that. You have to be aware of what you are looking for and watch out for the signs. Everything is out there, waiting for you. Quite the deep conversation these two are having. Holmes stared at me, a faint smile on his lips. He removed a cigar from his case. Striking a Vesta match, he lit the cigar and blew circles of blue smoke up into the air. You appear quite the expert on the subject, Miss Adler. Perhaps you can advise a cynical old man like me on how I would go about finding love, and what to look out for? I paused for a moment, realizing that Holmes was revealing a side to me he would never divulge to anyone else. Although I didn't always agree with him, I adored listening to his pragmatic perspectives. The most important advice I can give is to be prepared to compromise with the person with whom you fall in love with and be flexible. And know this, Mr. Holmes. Someone you may not even be aware of may love you right now, but remains anonymous. Life is fleeting. We should embrace its moments, not walk away from them. You presume to know a great deal about relationships, Miss Adler. I speak as I find, Mr. Holmes. My honesty gets me into trouble at times. I sincerely believe that genuine attraction, the meeting of minds, goes beyond the physical. Sexuality is fluid and can change with time. I stared at him searchingly. He responded with a mocking smile. Well, Miss Adler, in this imaginary world, that is what I must do. I believe that you are mocking me now, Mr. Holmes. I was merely making an observation, Miss Adler. This is just a game, after all. Is she hinting something? With these two? Difficult to say. After a pause, he picked up again. Well, then let me tell you something that you don't know. I was once engaged, although it wasn't common knowledge, albeit for a short period. Her name was Victoria, the daughter of my university professor. Alas, that did not end well. One moment we were engaged, and then we were not. It was as simple as that. Why? Whatever happened? Did she break your heart? I asked, eyes wide. She had her head turned by the charms of an affluent lawyer. He was much older and, unfortunately for me, much wealthier than I was. She broke off our engagement and returned my ring. Of course, she blamed me. Victoria told me she could no longer consider marrying a man who thought only of himself. In short, I was by far the most selfish person she had ever had the misfortune to encounter. A sputtering sound escaped from my mouth. I'm sorry, Mr. Holmes. I don't want you to think that I'm laughing at you. You're not? He quizzed. Then perhaps you can explain that alarming noise escaping your mouth. Anyway, I digress. Victoria then became angry and told me in no uncertain terms that I was too much of a maverick for her tastes, and that I was a difficult man to deal with. What did you say? I advised the young lady not to send sentences with a preposition, and that was the end of the affair. After that humiliating experience, I reasoned that it was far better to look forward than dwell in the past. Thinking rationally and not being led by emotions was preferable to being vulnerable. Emotion intelligence was not high up on my agenda back then. Perhaps if it was, I might have gone on to marry. Still, now I know I'll never marry, as I'm much more set in my ways and unapologetically so. Well, I think that lady was quite right about you being a maverick, but the rest I find quite harsh. As is life, Miss Adler. I'm sorry to hear about your broken engagement. You obviously must have loved her. I seldom allude to that time in my past. She was my fiancée for a short period. I'm not sure about love, but I did like her. She was beautiful and intelligent, but I noticed aspects of her personality that were not so attractive. She was attention-seeking, manipulative, and was possessed of a penchant for the finer things in life. And I speak as one of the finer things in life. I was already beginning to have serious reservations about marriage before she called off the engagement. I was, of course, initially mortified. No one likes to be forsaken. But then I felt relieved and realized the relationship had run its course. I had received all I wanted from it. I bet you did, I said sarcastically. Marriage is not for everyone, you know. Holmes was no more in need of a wife than I was a husband. Nevertheless, his private life fascinated me. I had a feeling he wasn't telling me everything, but I knew better than to push him further on that matter. He leaned forward in his chair, stretching out his long limbs, a sardonic look on his face. I detect an undertone of sarcasm in your tone. While we're on the subject of failed relationships, might I mention Wilhelm Ormstein? Well, that's unscrupulous, Mr. Holmes. I glared at him indignantly. He shrugged with an air of comic resignation before we both burst into laughter. I long ago forfeited my right to take the moral high ground, I can assure you. And yes, Wilhelm let me down badly. He attempted to bestow precious gems upon me. I resisted all temptation, although you know how I feel about jewelry. As young and naive as I was, I realized that if I accepted what he offered, there would be expectations and repercussions. I was no fool. I was simply a girl who loved a young man, who just happened to be a crown prince. Let people think what they will. I narrowed my eyes. People assumed I was only with Wilhelm because of his wealth and position, but nothing could have been further from the truth. I naively believed him when he promised to marry me, but I was devastated after learning of his engagement to Clodite von Saxe-Meiningen, and outraged when Wilhelm suggested I become his mistress. I couldn't get away from Warsaw quickly enough. I traveled to London with my honor intact, but with my reputation in tatters. I took with me the photograph of us as leverage just in case there were any repercussions. I avoided Wilhelm's agents on several occasions before he engaged your services. Bad choices leave you in bad places, Mr. Holmes. Mind you, I will say this for Wilhelm. He was slow with his promises, but fast on his feet. He was an excellent dancer, and dancing is perfect for the soul. I'm so glad we got to share our mutual disappointments. Holmes took another sip from his glass, sitting back in his chair. Did it ever bother you what people thought? No, it never bothered me. I cannot express enough how little I care about what people think. I had to work hard to unsully my reputation. Did you not feel liberated after your experience? No, I didn't feel liberated, because that would have implied that I was concerned. And to be brutally honest, I was not. Of course, I was aware I was the subject of scandal and gossip. When choosing a public career, one must be open to certain critiques, so I was expecting repercussions. But even so, I was unprepared for the onslaught of insults over the years. I'd learned to despise the press, the lowest station of acceptable form of prejudice. For the most part, they are superficial opportunists, utterly concerned or unconcerned about the truth. To have your character assassinated, accused of things you did not do, is the most corrosive of human experiences. All the alleged allegations were, of course, unfounded. Still, they made for excellent broadsheet drama. I'm sure even you must have read about me at some point, Mr. Holmes. I couldn't help but be reminded of all the people I was terrified of at school, and how awful it was to be 15. There I was, thrust into the limelight for all the wrong reasons. Only instead of people writing about me on the blackboards, now they were reporting in newspapers. I am acutely aware that the newspapers are not always blameless. The press is a powerful entity. They print whatever they can get away with. I have never flaunted myself in public. Don't get me wrong, it's nice to be recognized now and again. But to be more famous than that has never been an aspiration of mine. With that said, it does sometimes help to secure a reservation at your favorite restaurant. I laughed. I've never much cared about recognition and accolades. I have never performed an aria in order to win an award, and I'm sure Wagner never composed a symphony with a trophy in mind. I believe there is an imperative in everyone to make a mark in the world, but I haven't done that yet. And that's the thing that burns away at me after all this time. I should have done something of meaning, and I think that's important before one becomes irrelevant. You are an incredible artist with a huge talent, the best of the best. I doubt you could ever become irrelevant. I fancy that Irene Adler is capable of achieving anything she sets her mind to. You have unexplored possibilities. You have beauty, brains, and talent. There is ample time for you to make your mark on this world. Yes, but what mark and where is the question? I said. So you see, Mr. Holmes, I didn't care for a moment. I had no interest in pandering to the negative thoughts of others. I was never happier than when I was surrounded by my friends and family when I met Godfrey. He appeared utterly unconcerned about my past. He professed to love me unconditionally. I cannot tell you how good that felt. But of course, we both know how that ended. Since then, I have concluded that human relationships are unpredictable and futile. Of course, I'm aware that there are few exceptions, but sadly not for me. My past relationships have brought nothing but misery and despair. Holmes shook his head and smiled at me with profound tenderness. Thank you for sharing that with me, Miss Adler. He held out his splendid gold snuff box with a great amethyst at the center of the lid. Do you like this? Why, it's beautiful. Yes. Holmes stared at me pointedly. Sometimes it takes time to see the true beauty in something. This was a gift from the man himself, the King of Bohemia, for investigating the scandal in Bohemia. The only time a woman has ever outwitted me. Well, that was a girl, or what was a girl to do when pursued by such a formidable antagonist as yourself? I do hope that your fee was extortionate. It was indeed. We laughed. You know, I have come to look forward to our evening discussions. I enjoy your astute observations, your advice, and your thoughts on life. You are an amazing orator and an excellent listener. I feel I could talk to you about anything. You're hell to live with, mind, with your insistent violin play throughout the night. I was unaware that my violin bothered you. Mr. Holmes, I have appeared in operas with less music, and don't get me started on your overinflated self-importance and your untidiness. But your conversation is quite sublime. You mock me, Miss Adler. Why not? Someone must. I glibly replied before bursting into a peal of laughter. I am just teasing you, of course. I have no wish to offend you of all people. There's no one's company I enjoy more than yours. But then I think you already know that. There was no doubt I would miss Sherlock Holmes once our adventure was over. Still, most of all, I would miss the intimacy of our private conversations. While here in Fiesole, we had not only created a subtle bond, a good and stimulating friendship had been forged. Holmes nodded to me with a wiry smile, clapping in amusement. You don't offend me. On the contrary, you rather amuse me. I look forward to your little epigrams. You are by far the wittiest, funniest person I have ever met. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of chapter 27. That chapter was a lot longer than the others. But I can absolutely tell why, because, my goodness, they had a lot to talk about. What a splendid conversation. KD, that chapter must have taken you quite a bit to write, because that dialogue back and forth was amazing. Well done. And on that note, I'm afraid it's time to find someone to raid. But if you want to hear more reading, in about 8 minutes, I will be in Discord reading Iron Flame. A very different book entirely, but nonetheless a joy to read. Let me see who's online and who we can go say hello to. Let's see, who have we not raided in quite some time? Or at all? It certainly did, thank you. It was so well narrated. Thank you. Professor Petty has redeemed the trigger word skill check. 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 Thank you for redeeming that, Professor. Nighty night, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. You too, Stop Mama's Mama. I hope everyone has a fantastic Christmas. I will be streaming on the 26th, the day after. And for now, a slight change of pace. We're going to go raid a friend of mine, Her name is Princess. She's playing Sea of Thieves, which is absolutely nothing like what we're doing right now. But if you would like to copy that raid message, it'll be awesome. Oh yeah, I think you'll do just fine with your voice acting podcasts and every endeavor you do involving that beautiful silky smooth voice. Thank you. That is very kind of you. I appreciate it. Cue pirate songs. Indeed. All right. So, let me set up the raid. Just making sure I'm spelling everything correctly, because Lord knows sometimes I cannot type for the life of me. Okay. Thank you for the follows, for the new chatters, for the gifted subs, and for the bits. If I don't see you again until after Christmas, please have a wonderful holiday. I wish nothing for the best for you. I really do. I hope you have a fantastic time. Spend it with as many people as you can. And I will see you afterwards. But until then, as I always like to say, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a wonderful night.